Ancient Egypt, Life in the Nile River Valley by Chance Hart. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built as a tomb for the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu. It took approximately 20 years to build and has 3 burial chambers inside. When it was originally built in approximately 2550 BC, it was almost 147 meters tall. Today, because of its erosion, it is only about 139 meters tall. The Pyramid of Dahomey was erected at Saqqara. It's across the Nile from modern Cairo and about 15 miles south of Giza. Saqqara might have been the burial ground for pharaohs in the early Second Dynasty, which started in 2770. Seal impressions with their names were found within 2 tombs with large sets of underground galleries. Even if the big tombs from the time were only for nobles, Saqqara had already been hallowed before Dahomey's reign. The most famous sphinx is the Great Sphinx of Giza. It is one of the largest and oldest statues in the world. Archaeologists believe that it was carved around 2500 BC, and that the head is meant to be the likeness of the pharaoh Khafra. The Great Sphinx faces the sunrise and guards the pyramid tombs of Giza. The Nubian monuments of Egypt, also known as the Abu Simbel, is a temple complex originally cut into a solid rock cliff in southern Egypt and located at the second cataract of the Nile River. The 2 temples which comprise the site, the Great Temple and the Small Temple, were created during the reign of Ramesses II between 1264 and 1244 BC. Ancient Egyptians used steatite and carved small pieces of vases, amulets, images of deities, of animals, and several other objects. Ancient Egyptian artists also discovered the art of covering pottery with enamel. Covering by enamel was also applied to some stonework. The beginning of the arts of weaving and dyeing are lost in antiquity. Mummy cloths of varying degrees of fitness, still evidencing the dyer's skill, are preserved in many museums. Ancient Egyptian paintings survived due to the extremely dry climate. The ancient Egyptians created paintings to make the afterlife of the deceased a pleasant place. The themes included journey through the afterworld or their protective deities, introducing the deceased to the gods of the underworld. The development of record keeping and the rise of the importance of the scribe corresponded with the realization of a large agricultural surplus and the introduction of centralized and efficient administration of the country. The record-keeping function was responsive to the needs of the society and its rulers. The scribe functions of record-keeping required education and training, which was available for the selected candidates. In performing his duties, the scribe accumulated the relevant data, processed it, and presented it in a useful form to the users, mainly the palace and the priests. The head of the legal system was officially the pharaoh, who was responsible for enacting laws, delivering justice, and maintaining law and order. The judicial system was not a separate entity from the ancient Egyptian government. Egyptian law encouraged reaching agreements to resolve conflict rather than sticking to a complicated set of laws. The ancient Egyptian people from all social classes except slaves as essentially equal under the law. Both men and women had the right to own and sell property, make contracts, marry and divorce, and pursue legal disputes in court. Egyptian Book of the Dead was known to the Egyptians as Ra-nu-hut-em-hra. Translated, that means the chapters of coming form by day. It is a collection of chapters made up of magic spells and formulas. The ancient Egyptians engaged in trade with their foreign neighbors to obtain rare exotic goods not found in Egypt. They established trade with Nubia to obtain gold and incense. They also established trade with the Palestine for their Palestinian-style oil jugs that can be found in the burials of the First Dynasty pharaohs. Egypt replied on trade with Anatolia for essential quantities of tin as well as supplementary supplies of copper, both metals being necessary for the manufacture of bronze. The ancient Egyptians prized the blue stone lapis lazuli, which had to be imported from faraway Afghanistan. Egyptians' Mediterranean trade partners also included Greece and Crete, which provided, among other goods, supplies of olive oil in exchange for its luxury imports and raw materials. Egypt mainly exported grain, gold, linen, and parures, in addition of other finished goods including glass and stone objects. During the earliest periods, stone and wood weapons were used. These early Egyptian weapons included slings, clubs, throwing sticks, stone maces, and stone-tipped spears. Wooden bows were also constructed and used with stone-tipped arrows. Around 3150 BC, Upper and Lower Egypt united, and the Egyptians begun using bronze weapons. They used bronze for spearhead, axes, and maces. It was also during this period that the composite bow came into use. The Egyptians didn't build roads to travel around their empire because most of their major cities in ancient Egypt were along the banks of the Nile River. As a result, the Egyptians used the Nile for transportation and shipping from very early on. They became experts at building boats and navigating the river.